Tensions between Afghanistan and Pakistan have sharply escalated in the last few weeks with airstrikes, retaliatory attacks, and accusations from both sides, all of which is fueling what may now be a very dangerous phase in this confrontation. To unpack all of this, we have with us today Baker Atyani, who is a veteran journalist and has covered the region and this topic extensively. Thank you so much for being here with us today. There is currently two wars going on in the world, but first let's talk about the one that's going on at home. Tensions between Pakistan and Afghanistan are on the rise, and recently there's a lot of claims coming in from both sides. But first, I'd like to understand, how do you think Afghanistan can match the conventional warfare capabilities that Pakistan has, given that officially they don't have an air force or any kind of military warfare that Pakistan possesses?
Yeah, good question. But I think I would look into it from a different perspective. What if there's a chaos and instability in Afghanistan? No political system. Would that work better for Pakistan? I doubt that. I think history told us instability in Afghanistan doesn't stop within the Afghan borders. This is one aspect. Secondly, this tension between Pakistan and Afghanistan is not something new. It's been, I believe, defined by history and by geography. In fact, Afghanistan's first stand against Pakistan was in 1947, when Pakistan was supposed to join the UN, and the only country at that time that opposed Pakistan's admission to the UN was Afghanistan. And the reason was the Durand Line. And if you go down the history, the relations between Pakistan and Afghanistan in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s, never been a warm one. In fact, at some phases of history, it was a hostile one. During the Afghan Soviet War, the Afghan intelligence were allegedly acting across the border in Pakistan, and there were a few incidents of bombing, not suicide, but bombing happened. One of them in Barichanar, I believe in 1987, where more than 100 were killed. Pakistan back then accused the Afghan intelligence HUD being behind this attack. So it's been hostile. The only time I believe was kind of warm of relations between both Pakistan and Afghanistan, that was during the first time when Taliban came into power. 1996 till 2001. Back then, Pakistan had more influence on the Taliban. The Taliban were in need for Pakistan. I remember something interesting back then when I used to try to speak to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Kabul. I used to, from a landline, I used to dial 051. And when I wanted to speak to Kabul, I used to use 091, which is Peshawar code. When I wanted to speak to Kandahar, where actually the Taliban leadership used to be, Mullah Omar and his team, I used to dial 081, which is Quetta number. So this much, the relations being like at that phase of time, these few years, that strong and connected. And Pakistan had that, I would say, leverage and the strategic depth in Afghanistan. So that's actually, I believe, it is a history. As I said, it's a relation defined by history and by geography.
Right. And you mentioned that an unstable Afghanistan is, of course, in no one's favor in the region. But Pakistan has repeatedly come to the table to talk as well, and they have one simple demand: to not support the TTP, which is also backed by the UN Security Council resolution. So why do you think the Taliban are not agreeing to that?
Again, it's very interesting because what appears now, the main issue between Pakistan and Afghanistan is the TTP. But again, if you look into this and look back to the history, TTP is an inherited problem. TTP emerged from the tribal area after the US war in Afghanistan, the US invasion. It started emerging till we started seeing something called TTP around, I think, 2006, 2007. And they were active during Karzai time, during Ghani time, and now during the Taliban time. So it's not something new, it's an inherited problem. Certainly, this is a security concern for Pakistan because they are actually targeting Pakistan. They are certainly operating from the Afghan territory. But here there's a question. Can the Afghan Taliban control them? Certainly the Afghan Taliban can influence, but influence, I believe, doesn't mean a full control.
Right. And so where do you see all of this going? There were talks in the past, and now Pakistan says we're not going to talk anymore. We're seeing drones coming as far as Islamabad being intercepted. So how do you think this is going to either escalate, or if it's going to end, how will it end?
Well, it's all about, will there be any middle ground, or someone would play a role of a mediator between Pakistan and Afghanistan? I believe China can play this role between both of the countries. But I see this problem or this tension between Pakistan and Afghanistan is a matter of expectations that Pakistan has from Afghanistan, and kind of a sovereignty issue that Afghanistan believes that they should actually they should have over their country. The Afghan Taliban and the TTP, they know each other's, and in a conflict like this, sometimes state actors would actually use non-state actors as proxies. So this is expected. The main, I believe, mistake that many people do when they want to analyze Afghanistan, that they believe Afghanistan is, disputes in Afghanistan are simple, or it can be fixed easily. Certainly not.
This is a very interesting point, and of course also the point you brought up earlier, that do the Taliban even have any influence over the TTP? Does it have something to do with factions within the Taliban, and what is this complex nature of system within the Taliban that you're talking about?
So the Taliban they are not one group, they are not one, they are different units within, comes under the umbrella of the TTP. Some of them are having contacts with even ISIS, and we've seen previously when ISIS emerged in this region, they were regrouped from a few factions from the TTP itself. So they have different connections. They have contacts with the Taliban. They have contacts with the Haqqanis. They have different contacts. But at any point, can they switch loyalties? Can work for state actors? Pakistan been always saying that even the Indian intelligence has been involved in this conflict, not only during this time when the Taliban in power, even during Ghani time, during Karzai time, Pakistan has been saying that the Indian intelligence were very much involved, and they were kind of working under what sometimes they call it false flag operations, using the TTP against Pakistan. So it is when there is a conflict like this, it's really complex relations. If the Afghan Taliban would push the Pakistani Taliban, the TTP, maybe some groups of the TTP would somehow would listen to the TTP, but to the Afghan Taliban, but not necessarily all of them. So that's what I meant when I say influence doesn't mean a full control.
Right. And this claim of the Indian intelligence's involvement is also interesting. Do you think, how do you view that? As in, do you think that could increase threats to Pakistan itself?
Well, whenever there is a conflict, state actors always use non-state actors in order to destabilize, achieve their own goals. And India has been active in Afghanistan. And their golden era was during the presence of the U.S. Forces in Afghanistan, the international forces there, and during Ghani and Karzai time. That was their golden era where they have invested a lot in Afghanistan in terms of education, health, culture, and even diplomacy. They used to have consulates in main cities in Afghanistan, in Kandahar, in Jalalabad, across along the borders with Pakistan. And Pakistan has been accusing the Indian intelligence, the RAW, of operating there and using militants under what they call it the false flag operations to act against Pakistan. So it's no doubt, I believe Pakistan see Afghanistan from its security lens. That's why this is certainly for Pakistan, as we see from its official statement, that it's a matter of concern.
Do you think that this evolving relationship between the Taliban and New Delhi, it's playing a role in the recent surge of attacks as well, considering that there is a military imbalance, but we're seeing a lot of attacks being carried out from the Afghan side as well, and drones coming as far as Islamabad, which is shocking a lot of people how that's possible. So how do we understand that situation?
Honestly, I'm not really a military, analyst, but we knew that the U.S. forces and international forces have left a lot of weapons. So, and most of those weapons have been taken by the Afghan Taliban. Some, by the way, reached the insurgents in Balochistan. And in several attacks over the past 2 years against the Pakistan security forces show that the equipment that been used by the BLA and other insurgents in Balochistan were sophisticated and been actually inherited from the international forces who were in Afghanistan. So for the weapons and everything, I believe this has been all what is being left by the international forces in Afghanistan. Secondly, developing drones, it's no more something that is really difficult. So I think they can equip themselves, but the India element, certainly India is getting closer to the Taliban. Taliban is as well reaching out to India, and we've seen the foreign minister's visit, a very long, I believe it was 8 days or 9 days visit to India. And there are other visits that took place by other officials from Kabul to Delhi. But as I said again, it's all about it's a region that has different players, and everyone wants to prove that they have the influence. They can actually play their own game. For India, certainly after what we have seen in May last year, India realized that they cannot conventionally confront Pakistan. They can't. And the game can be through non-state actors against Pakistan.
Right. And you mentioned China. So how do you think China will be able to mediate this differently from Qatar or Turkey, who have tried in the past as well?
Well, China always play a role of a mediator, but always a silent mediator. They won't really make it grand like how Trump does things. China has interest in the region, and it is in China's interest a stable Pakistan and a stable Afghanistan. So I believe from this perspective, China can play this role. Certainly Qatar played a role, Saudi Arabia tried, Turkey have tried, but maybe the conclusion was that maybe time would bring both countries together. But I believe for China is more urgent and immediate to look for a solution.